Take this opportunity to introduce KJ Fenton from UIPath. And I was really intrigued by a session that KJ gave previously where he showed how to automate certain tasks in using robotic process automation in especially Oracle Analytics Cloud, and how when the UI kind of doesn't, it makes it so you have to click on this, then click on this and do this, how you can automate some of those tasks. So with that, it's kind of interesting, the thought of how do you automate some of these tasks. So I'm going to let KJ take it away. So thanks for joining us, KJ, and thanks also UiPath for sponsoring us for this TechCast Days. Go ahead, KJ. The floor is yours.
Sure. Thank you all. I appreciate that very much. Apologies on hopping on here. Candidly, I was on vacation, so so popping in here. I was over in Maui. Thanks, Carrie. Appreciate it. But yeah, just as a quick intro here, senior sales engineer at UiPath. Love the stuff. Been involved with automation for about 5 years now. So really, what I want to do is take it a little bit of a step back, explain RPA, and then obviously, Dan, I know we can riff on in terms of how we can actually talk about more of the OAC automation stuff. Probably don't need the full time here. I can probably rip through the whole presentation I have in a half hour, leave some good time for Q&A. So that way
timing works out well, KJ.
Yep, exactly. Yep. And because it's pretty straightforward. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go through a slide deck. I'm actually going to show you a little bit of some stuff. I'm going to build some basic stuff out, and then I'll play a canned demo that I have. But if I need to run it live, you can hold me accountable and I can do that. But to that point, and then we'll just cover the whole platform. And then, like I said, we'll have a candid discussion. So anything you want to add there, Dan?
No, I think that's great. Go ahead and show what you were going to show.
Awesome. Cool. So like I said, got a nice little deck here. So let me just, I'm going to kill the share here. I'm going to go into mine, if that's cool.
Yep.
Want to make sure?
Yeah, perfect. Awesome. Go ahead.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Go to screen 2. And then let me just pop into presentation mode. Y'all can see presentation mode right here?
Yep.
Awesome.
You see it great.
Awesome. Cool. So when we talk about, automating repetitive tasks, obviously Oracle Cloud specific, but we can talk about automating things in general. So normally what I like to do on a cadence with this is just start from the basics here, in the sense of right here, what is RPA? Why UiPath specifically? I'm sure if you've heard RPA, we're not the only one in the market. We do happen to be number one in terms of market share, but let's explain why and why we get there. Our core product offering, because when you think automation, what does that actually mean? What products are involved with that? And then we'll actually go into, I'm going to do a live build. I'm going to squeeze it in there. And then I'll show you actually something that Dan helped me put together about exporting a PowerPoint exporting a PowerPoint from Oracle Analytics Cloud. We'll cover the full platform overview, and then I'll give you some highlights about how you can even join our community as well. On top of that, obviously, and DOUC, you could join our community as well and learn about our stuff. So once we get there, what is RPA? As it was alluded to, it stands for Robotic Process Automation. It is a term that's used for its software tools that will either partially or fully automate really human-based activities, right? Manual, repetitive in nature. It's just going to interact with this systems the same way that y'all do. So I'm sure everyone on this call understands, oh, I go to this website and I input this specific thing. I know, Dan, we were talking about something else I'm working with as well to help you prep for I forget what it was offhand, but prepping all of those specific screens, taking the screenshots, it's like they're very mundane work. And it's like, if I knew how to code, I would do it. But sometimes you just don't know how to code it. We don't know the syntax. We kind of fill that gap, and it's pretty awesome. So to give you a nice little highlight of that, I'm actually going to play a video here real quick. That's the story of work. This was actually one of our first commercials that we put together. Super proud that we did that and actually got on TV. But I wanted to let this play because I think it explains very well how our product works. So let me just play this and we'll continue from
there. This is the story of work. It started a long time ago on a Monday, which was handy. For as long as history itself, the humans needed to work. They wanted to work, to grow things and create things and build things, to see what they were capable of, to stand at day's end and say, I did that, which felt pretty good. So they worked more, built more, and created more, and traveled to far-off places. And then someone suggested submitting expense reports for those far-off places. His name was Glenn, and he was well, you know. Anyway, the people kept getting better at work. They built better tools to work more efficiently. They built amazing machines to work faster. They built computers to work smarter. But still, they couldn't do enough work. Because during all that work to do more work, they had created work, and not the good kind. Not the let's sit around and come up with ideas kind. Not the I can't wait to get to work so I can jump into a new project kind.
The unpleasant kind. The drudge and data and admin and the doggone expense reports.
So the humans had to work more at work they didn't like. That made them robotic. That didn't inspire. They had to postpone vacations. They had to miss family dinners.
They were miffed.
And then something happened. Someone had a really amazing idea. They came into work and said, stop working and start working. The humans thought she might have had wine at lunch, so she showed them a way to put the fun back into work, to waste less time doing the things they hated, to make more efficient the big tasks, to stop making the humans act like robots and start teaching the robots to learn the humans. Not to replace people, but to free them. Even Glenn. Robots that learn you. Imagine the potential, like starting over, to help us remember again that work only really works when we're happy at it.
Well, KJ, I didn't realize we were going to get a little feature in the middle of this. That's great. In terms of a little bit of break, that works out well. So tell us how this ties to the rest of what we would do with robotic process automation.
For sure. And just thinking out loud here, it's just, that's what he said. Everything is robotic. So when you think about the work you're going to do and the work you do day to day, day in and day out, right? A lot of that stuff is mundane. So it really breaks down to, in my way, I know there's a lot of tasks. Obviously, if you're going to use a specific system, that system has specific modules, and in those specific modules, there's specific functions that you're going to perform. There's a certain if then else logic to that. If you know the if then else logic and you can tell someone how to do it, I'm willing to bet you can automate it. And that's how it connects. So we can do it in a multitude of different ways. And I can show you that on the front end and the back end. And just to keep me honest here, Dan, how much time do we got here? Just on the time check? Just want to be sure.
Let me check on here. It looks like we've got until 1:05 is when we take our breaks.
1:05? Cool.
15 minutes in here
All good.
To go through it.
Yep, for sure. So to finalize, what we were talking about there, right? The way it connects is we can do it on the front end, so it can emulate exactly what y'all are doing. And then if I want to just kind of skip around real quick, we do have some other connectors as well. I'm going to go back to this and I'll show you some stuff. We can deploy on the infrastructure as well, meaning we could deploy our entire platform and you can use the UI. We can connect to those backend databases. We have connectors specifically to do it. It really just boils down to, are you making a SQL query and doing it on the backend and using this, pretty much the XML? Or are you going to do it on the front end? The beauty is we build a workflow to do both. So the way we integrate is really any way that you think you integrate. It might be a bad example per se, but I'm going to say it anyway because I think it makes perfect sense. Every single house ever, or any place of commerce, what do they have? They have duct tape. They have Gorilla Glue, right? And the reason they have it is because there always is going to be a connection to serve A, B, and C, and D. And we can be that connection, but there are times where you just need to bridge the gap because you just don't have that syntax code. Why not use our stuff? Because we're industry grade. And we're not the only people saying that, right? If you look at, why UiPath in the market, right? There's a new Magic Quadrant coming out. We're right in the top right, like we always are. But if you're looking at this, we've been a leader since 2018, really. When we hit the market by storm, and we've only just kind of kept moving up, right? And it's our ability, that computer vision of being able to interact with any system, any application in any way that you want, extracting data, transforming it, loading it, or extracting, load, and transform, however you want to think of it. We've been doing that, and they're not the only ones, right? Forrester has been giving us the same thing. There was actually one year, I think it was 2020, it might have been, our bubble wasn't even in this, it was off the map over here, which I thought was kind of funny that they would put in a graph, but we were just killing it, for lack of a better term. And it wasn't that we were doing anything kind of, crazy. It was just our technology was revolutionary, and we were helping people like yourselves automate things they never could before.
KJ, if
So
I
what?
might tie that
What?
a little bit to the other presentations, Adel talked about machine learning in how you can, learn from the systems and develop stuff. Tim and I just gave a presentation on data visualization. We have good intentions of making it so that people have a good workflow in how they're using it. What we find when we talk to customers is that often the initial design of this turns into somebody having to export the data out, put it in Excel or something like that. Even though we say that's not the way to do it, that's the way people tend to use these systems. And then it's somebody's automated task to go and do that. And somebody says, well, just run that every day, run that data flow every day, run such and such, and look for this, that type of thing. Can you show
Bingo.
us a little bit of, how that would tie in terms of using something with Oracle Analytics? Do you have that?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, I do. I have the demo that we built. I think it's a perfect segue and it's summarized. I think it'll be great. Yeah. And thank you for the time. It's much appreciated. Yeah. I like to think, especially as it looks at, machine learning, we do everything before and after, right? Like you need to load data. We can do that right afterwards. So let's just look at something right here. Dan had presented this. He's like, you know what? Someone needs to go in and prepare this report daily. So why don't we give it some countries to be able to export based on, I think it was whiskey was the PowerPoint. I'm a big whiskey guy myself. So appreciated that. So yeah, let's just take a look at this. Nice summarized little video explaining how we did it on top of it. Built this in like, I don't know, a half hour, I think. So there you go. Hello, my name is KJ Fenton, and today I'll be narrating this demonstration of UiPath interacting with Oracle Analytics Cloud, or OAC, to perform various automated functions where there may be a lack of APIs, backend integrations, etc. at the UI level. This specific demonstration will simulate a standard PowerPoint export, and with that, let's see how this works. Before we see the automation in action, let's see the actual process we'd like to automate. Here, we notice the user navigating to the whiskey-specific PowerPoint to gather some logistics based on country. The user then chooses 3 different countries, the United Kingdom, United States, and Ireland, and then finalizes the process by exporting this file to PowerPoint for presentation purposes. Now, let's see the automation. In this example, we use Excel as a configuration file to tell the robot what countries to filter for. Here, we're going to change the options to Argentina, Australia, and Greece instead of the values used before to prove we can automate with dynamic values. Once those are set, we run the automation in an attended fashion using UiPath Assistant. Once the package is loaded, the robot will instead try to navigate to the specific whiskey page directly to export however it's prompted with a login screen. Using stored credentials, the automation inputs the respective username and password to continue processing. Once the page is loaded successfully, it replicates the same steps shown manually and uses our pre-configured countries to filter the deck properly. After applying the filters, the robot finalizes the process, performing the PowerPoint export, thus confirming UiPath can interact with Oracle Analytics Cloud to perform various automated functions, which allows the human workforce to spend time on much more meaningful tasks. Sorry, I saw Venkat, I saw your question come in, so let's stop the audio there. So that was really just something that we had put together. In terms of your question there on did it auto login or is manual login required? Depends on your business case. I had it automatically look to see if we were logged in. So I just looked for an element on the screen that said, if this element's available, then we're logged in. If not, then send the command to log in accordingly. Yep. So because of that, right, I wrote the logic in that says, if I'm presented this screen, type in your username, type in your password, and do that. We can store those in our credential score, so on and so forth. But I really like to break it down to if then else logic, right? If you know that you're going to be prompted with a login at some point, build the logic in. If you're not, well, then there you go. Yeah, it's pretty simple. And with that, it was just a certain steps, and I was able to obviously make dynamic values with the countries that you chose, and so on and so forth. Camel case would be important, but you get the idea there. Yeah. Background work required. Can you specify that a little bit more on the background work?
KJ, what that's referring to, how did you go about doing this? What does it look like in order to do that? That showed the end product. but
course.
can you pop up something to show what
I
that
can.
workbench looks like, something
Of
like
course.
that, to see.
Absolutely.
All right, so somebody, while you get that going, if somebody wanted to be able to do this themselves, what does that experience look like while you bring that up?
Yeah, so the experience would be, if you want to get started, it's actually a good segue into, no, not that. Sorry about that. If I knew how to click around in my own presentation. Best thing you could do is start out and go to UiPath Academy. That's the way I actually learned. So I'm a self-taught, I guess, quintessential RPA developer, so to speak. I was just learning how to build a bunch of automations, went to Academy back early 2018, and really just kind of took it by storm. In our Academy, we had a few courses on there. We have a ton more now. But going through the Academy, what it does is you sign up, you register. They're completely online courses. Everything is for free besides our actual RPA developer certification that you would pay. It's a test that you would take, but everything else leading up to it is completely for free. And then what you can also do is sign up at an Automation Cloud for free community edition to actually get trained, and then eventually obviously get certified taking the Academy courses. What's really cool is you get set up with your own instance there. So you can get your own designer workbench, you get your own robot, and you obviously get your own management console of Orchestrator. And then Academy walks you through everything. I would probably recommend for everyone on this call, bare minimum business analyst training. Teaches you just how to look at things from an automation perspective. And if you want to dig deeper into building, which I'll show you here in a minute, you can take our foundations coursework as well.
So go ahead and show that to us. What does that look like from a—
Absolutely. Yep. So as you can see right here, this is the designer interface that I had here. So what I have is I have this right here is telling the robot. So this is our designer. So what we have is everything has a resource and an action. So if I'm going to use a specific application or use the browser, I would drag this in, and then I would identify on screen what I'm interacting with. And on one click, our technology is able to pull back all of that. And we could say, yep, okay, it was PowerPoint 16. I could pass the argument that says open up this specific PowerPoint file and so on and so forth. But that's not the only thing. We also have use, where is it? Is it PowerPoint? Is it Power? Yep. There's a PowerPoint pack in there. There's an Excel pack. There's a bunch of different things. And then once you define your resource, clicking specific buttons, typing into a specific field. So just to show you what that looks like here, if I pull in a type into, I'll switch this real quick. And I know I'm going quick. Obviously, it's just meant to just show you a little bit.
This is great.
Yep, exactly. Yep, just show you a little bit. I identify this, and let's say I want to type into one of those fields, type into the email field. Right. What's really nice is that the reason we're able to do this better than everyone else is that sometimes selectors on the back end, which is the actual HTML or XML elements, are dynamic in nature, meaning it changes every time a page refreshes. But what we can do is we can anchor to things that we know are static, and our technology does that in one shot, which is really awesome. And then from that, what would I type into? I could create a variable, right? I can create a string of, that would be email. I could create an argument. I can do anything written on .NET and C#. So think of all your types of variables there. We have our own proprietary as well, but strings, integers, booleans, you name it. All that's pulled in, and that's really what you would replicate. So if we look at what I built, this is the workflow that you saw. Open up to this page, attached to the screen. So I was looking to see if I could have it, right? And I'm just checking, right here, type into, type password, click sign in. Did we get this to appear for okay? Great. And then right there, it's just the same process. Just click to add the filter, click country, click here so we can get the search. Right, click begins with, and then I actually read through, stored some data. List goes on, but it really was nothing more than, okay, if I'm thinking through this, what are the steps I do manually? How would I code it? And I just built the workflow. It's really all it is.
So this,
just drag and drag. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, KJ, this looks a little like in the old days we recorded macros in Excel and previous products that I won't even go into. You know, we recorded all this stuff. And then it looks like this is just automating that type of process. But I'm guessing that's reading from the Excel spreadsheet, making it dynamic so that it was picking different countries. Yeah. And you're just pulling that from Excel. And this automates the process for those tasks that, well, let's just say Oracle should be able to automate this, but there's always stuff that you want to do in the UI. And so this allows you to do it in the UI, and the software is just driving the browser.
Yes. That's exactly right. Yeah, it's the easiest way to describe it. It's a desktop macro. Yeah. And there is a need and there's a niche. And yes, people are like, yes, you always want to build the back end. And I hear that argument every time. If that existed, why are we in the market? Like, I don't want to say that you know what I mean? And it sounds braggy, but it's not, because you know as well as I do, everyone on this call, if you have a backend integration, you should use it. I agree. But there's no incentive to do that, and time and resources and allocation and so on and so forth. And what if you have one system that doesn't communicate with another? Because, hey, we're a capitalist society, right? What's the incentive to do that, right? Unless there's money to be made. So if there's not, you can use us to fill that gap. And
So you're
the
a gap
beauty is,
filler.
yeah, we are an industry grade gap filler that the capabilities are endless. I mean, I've got my own little robot here, just kind of thinking candidly, right? I don't have much, but I have my passwords stored. So when I go into an application, I know what my password's going to be. I send a hotkey. Guess what I don't do anymore? Fat finger and lock myself out of an application. Doesn't save a ton of time on ROI, but how annoying is that?
Yeah.
It's those little things, but then we can also do industry grade. I mean, I'm thinking of a company here in Charlotte, and they used our stuff to audit ways they've never been able to before. And they saved millions in dollars in services cost because they didn't need to hire a consulting firm anymore. Huge, huge limitless potential. And it just boils down to, if then else logic, do I know the process? I can automate it. That's pretty much it. So we can connect, we're agnostic, but obviously we do have a relationship with Oracle, and we are looking to expand that. I actually got an email pretty recently about some new connectors that I'm like, ooh, let's go explore that. So, but yeah, that's, yeah, so there you go. So just rounding this out. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry. Did you want to add anything?
Anything to wrap up? And I'll mention to people, if you have questions, put them in the Q&A widget, and I'll ask KJ. But anything else to before we wrap up, KJ?
Sure. Yeah, I'll just cover quick. So right here, I just wanted to kind of cover the core. When you start out with RPA, this is what you're going to be using. What I was showing you here, this is the designer. This is Studio right here. That is where we actually digitize that if then else logic. We have a management console called Orchestrator. It's where we deploy all of our automation. So build one, you deploy it, and then we deploy it on our robots. This is the GUI for the robot, so that at some point, I don't need to actually go into Studio and run it. I can just click a button here. I just have my hello world process. I click a button that sends the command to run an automation. That's our core platform. You can do fundamentally virtually anything with that. We do have additional capabilities though. I did want to highlight those super quick. So that's our core. That's core RPA. Everyone's going to have that. What separates us in the market is how we actually look at these things. So how are we actually going to discover opportunities for automation? How are we going to automate the complex? You think machine learning, you think intelligent document processing, you think chatbots, you think engaging with a human, whatever the case may be. How do we actually measure ROI? And then what I'm most passionate about is democratizing this. I don't think you need to be a coder to build automations anymore. I really don't. Because candidly, I wasn't one. I was just a business student, MIS student who just had a little bit more of a drive and a knack and so on and so forth to do it. So what we have now is obviously everything highlighted is kind of our core platform. We've got a ton of different products that do everything from assessment of automation ideas to discovering things on the back end to we have a full-blown IDP capability. We've got a marketplace full of a ton of different connectors. You can go on to marketplace.uipath.com and search Oracle. We have a testing, so ALM tools for it. We have data service, which is like pretty much access for us, insights to measure ROI, apps if you want to build an interface to trigger stuff down. Long story short, we're really the only full end-to-end automation platform that can take something from inception of an idea all the way to measuring the value of your RPA program. We're the only company in the market that offers a platform for that. Everyone else has some third-party services sprinkled in. So if you're looking for kind of that one party, that's really what we can offer to you. And obviously we do have OAC activities as well that you can use. So yeah, just wanted to leave that. We can deploy bare metal. We have a containerized solution in Kubernetes. We can deploy it actually fully in the cloud now, which is dope, which is really cool. We have a hosted VM. We're getting there. That was a very exciting thing. Obviously the market really liked that. That's our 22.4 release. And obviously you have a ton of integrations there. I should have swapped that for Oracle. Apologies guys on that slide right here. And then obviously if you want to continue your journey, we have this, you'll have the full slide deck afterwards. So you can go take a look at these links. But if you're looking at this and saying, I want to try it, you can literally do it today. You can pop right off this webinar, go to Academy, go to cloud.uipath.com and start playing around with this. So yeah, that's all I wanted to leave with. Just want to make sure I highlighted that with the time that we had. So I'll pass it back to the crew if there's any questions.
Well, thanks, KJ. Appreciate you taking us through that, and we'll continue on. One thing in transition, the mention of apologies about putting up a different. We are a community, and so we're not Oracle ourselves. So no offense taken if you mention competitive cloud products and such.
I know. I just felt like I was like, it's a
That's
user
good.
group. Like I need to put it in there. Like, but I'm
All
with
right.
you. I totally get it.
Yeah. So thanks so much for sharing all of that with us.
Yeah, no problem. And then thanks for carrying me through that a little bit. I appreciate it. And the little push there. Awesome. Well, cool. So yeah, I'll stay here for a little bit if anyone has anything else, but otherwise, yeah, I'll be here.
Thanks.
No problem.